In 1772, a young widow named Abigail Turner found a crimson veil tucked inside a forgotten chest in her late husband's study. The veil was delicate, embroidered with silver threads that formed a crest, a stag encircled by thorns. A note was pinned to it, written in a hurried hand. "My beloved, wear this at the harvest ball. I will know you by the stag. J." Abigail's breath caught in her throat. Her husband William had been dead a year, killed in a skirmish with British soldiers near their Virginia farm. Who was J, and why was this veil hidden? The harvest ball was tomorrow, hosted by the wealthy Langley family in Williamsburg. Abigail had no invitation, but the note's mystery tugged at her heart, a heart she thought had died with William. She decided to go, the veil her only key to the truth. The Langley estate glowed with candlelight, its halls filled with masked colonists and redcoats, uneasy allies in a time of growing tension. Abigail slipped through the crowd, the crimson veil draped over her shoulders, its silver stag glinting under chandeliers. Whispers followed her. Some recognized her as the widow Turner. Others wondered at the veil's crest. A man in a fox mask approached, his voice low. "You wear the stag," he said. Abigail's pulse quickened. "Are you Jay?" she asked. He shook his head, but his eyes lingered, sharp and searching. Before she could press him, he melted into the crowd, leaving a folded paper in her hand. "Meet me at the old oak, midnight." Abigail's mind raced. The old oak stood on the edge of the Langley estate, a place rumoured to hide secrets of the rebellion. She should have left, returned to her quiet farm, but the veil felt alive, its threads pulling her toward answers. At midnight, she reached the oak, its branches heavy with autumn leaves. A figure waited unmasked, his face half lit by moonlight. "I'm James Langley," he said, "the youngest son of the estate's patriarch. The veil was my sister's, Eleanor. She died 2 years ago, and they said it was fever, but I never believed it." Abigail clutched the veil, her fingers tracing the stag. Eleanor Langley had been betrothed to a British officer, a match her family opposed. The crest was the officer's family seal, a token of their secret engagement. James's voice trembled. "She wore that veil to meet him, but she never returned. I hid it in your husband's chest, hoping someone would find it." Abigail frowned. "Why William's chest?" James stepped closer, his breath warm in the chilly air. "Your husband was my friend, a patriot who knew Eleanor's secret. He promised to protect the veil if anything happened to me. But he died before he could act." Abigail's heart sank. William had never spoken of James or Eleanor, but he'd often ridden out at night, his face heavy with unspoken burdens. Was the veil one of them? James pulled a locket from his coat, its surface engraved with the same stag crest. Inside was a miniature portrait of Eleanor, her eyes bright with hope. "She was murdered," James said. The officer, Captain Harrow, wanted her dowry, not her heart. When she refused to break the engagement, he pushed her from a cliff near the James River. The veil was found clutched in her hand, but the Langleys buried the truth to avoid scandal. Abigail's hands shook as she held the locket. "Why hide the veil with me?" she asked. James's gaze softened. "I saw you at William's funeral, alone, but unbroken. I knew you'd find it someday, and you'd have the courage I lacked." Abigail's throat tightened. She was no stranger to loss, but courage? She hadn't felt it since William's death, yet the veil had brought her here. To this man, this truth. The air shifted, and footsteps crunched behind them. Captain Harrow himself appeared, his red coat uniform stark against the night. "You've been meddling, Langley," he said, his hand on his sword. "And you, widow, should have stayed home." Abigail's blood ran cold, but James stepped in front of her, his own blade drawn. "Run," he said. Abigail hesitated, the veil slipping to her shoulder. She couldn't leave him, not now. Together they faced Harrow, the moonlight glinting off the stag crest. Harrow lunged, his sword flashing, but James parried, his movement swift. Abigail grabbed a fallen branch, striking Harrow's arm, giving James an opening. The captain staggered, cursing, and fled into the woods, his threats echoing. James turned to Abigail, his chest heaving. "You're braver than I thought," he said. She managed a smile, her heart racing not just from fear. They couldn't stay. Harrow would return with men. James led her to a hidden barn where patriots met in secret. There, he showed her Eleanor's diary, its pages filled with her love for the officer and her fear of his greed. The final entry was a plea. "If I fall, let the stag tell my story." Abigail realized the veil wasn't just a token, it was evidence, a call for justice. She and James devised a plan. They rode to a printer in Williamsburg, a patriot who'd spread the truth. By dawn, broadsheets littered the town, titled "The Stag's Betrayal," detailing Eleanor's murder and Harrow's crime. The Langleys disowned their shame, and Harrow was last seen boarding a ship, his name ruined. Abigail and James stood by the old oak days later, the crimson veil in her hands. "Eleanor's story is free," James said, his voice soft, "and so are we." Abigail felt a warmth she hadn't known since William, a spark kindled by shared danger and truth. The veil had led her to more than justice. It had led her to James. Their eyes met, and for the first time, she didn't feel alone. The story of the Crimson Veil teaches 3 lessons about love. First, courage reveals truth. Abigail risked her life to uncover Eleanor's fate, showing that love demands bravery. Second, secrets forge bonds. The veil tied Abigail to James, proving that shared truths can spark something new. Third, love endures beyond loss. Eleanor's vow lived on, reminding us that even broken hearts leave a legacy. Abigail and James didn't part at the oak. They walked into the dawn, the veil a symbol of a love that defied time. Have you ever found a secret that changed your heart? Share it in the comments, and subscribe for more historical romances that linger like a whispered vow. Support us on Patreon for exclusive tales of love and mystery.